All right. Welcome to session 5 of Finding Calm in the Chaos. I am so excited. Today, we get to challenge ourselves, Don and I, of being co-host together at the same time. So this will be a lot of fun. Today's session is an accumulation of what we've learned along the way. And so we're working on state and changing state. So put your focus fox eyes on because we are going to boom, 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 go through stuff really fast today so that you can experience state changes at the end of the session. We're very excited about that. If you haven't seen any before and this is your first session you're watching, that's okay. You'll just learn it at a very speedy manner, and we encourage you to go back and look at the other sessions. I'm Cynthia McCoy-Brinkman. I have a nonprofit organization that brings hope to the hurting through trauma-informed care processes. I also am physically working as a massage therapist and myofascial release expert, and I do some coaching as well. Dawn is going to introduce herself.
My name is Dawn Bennett, and I work with emotions. So, anxiety, depression, sadness, all of those feelings that we naturally feel. And I use a series of techniques and tools to not only help you get to the root of the issue and shift that, but also to have, just like in this class, how do you do it on your own, fast and efficiently and gently for yourself? My specialty is also in relationships and in dating. And I've been in the healing field for 27 years now. It just hit in January. I was like, oh my gosh, it's been another year. Woo!
I love that. I love
Yeah.
that. Yeah, I don't know when I entered the healing field. I've always been that person who has supported people through trauma-informed care without even knowing it was a thing. And I did get my first certification in massage in 2005. So I am on my official 20th year of being a professional, according to the people that deem it. So.
Right.
Well, let's hop right in. I think we're just going to do this review first. So, session 1 was about breathing. And we're just going to start there. We're just going to take some deep breaths and center ourselves. So, go ahead and take a nice big deep breath in and hold it at the top. Let it fill your body and exhale with intention, releasing all that doesn't serve you. A nice big deep breath in. Filling not only your chest cavity, but fill the oxygen, fill up every space in your body and holding that in, letting it gather all the excess that no longer serves you, and exhale with great intention. And one more deep breath of gratitude. Always so grateful that the creator of the universe decided that these beautiful trees that represent us and life also give us life with their oxygen. And when we breathe out, we give them back their nourishment. There we go. A little simple breathing and grounding. And then week 2, Dawn hosted,
Mm-hmm.
which
And it's super funny because I want to jump to the wrong week right now in my head.
that's
Um,
so
and of course, I'm also trying to drop the link of the workbook into the
right.
Zoom thing. So
Herein lies the pass off, the handoff is not
right,
always
exactly.
complete.
But session two is about rewriting your inner story in general. So it's about what are the things that you tell yourself and how does that make you feel? So I want you to just notice we did a little bit of breath work right now, but what is your state right now? What's your emotional state? How are you feeling physically, mentally? We know a lot of people aren't here right now that said they were going to be here. Often that happens because we get ourselves worked up in the moment and say, you know what, I just don't have time to take care of myself right now. I don't have time to blah, 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 because there's something more important. And as my coach often tells me, because it's a good reminder, we all need reminders, right? We teach what we get to practice as well, is that sometimes the most efficient thing we can do is take a pause and reset ourselves in order to be better, to do more, to have clarity. Because when we pause, we find that moment of clearness. So if we're telling ourselves, there's not enough time, I don't have the energy, I don't know how to do this, I'm not good enough, I'm not, la, 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 that energy creates a spinning in our mind that then also blocks our ability to be able to come up with creative solutions. So I want you to just notice now, like, how are you sitting? Like, where's your body in space? How do you feel physically and mentally at this moment? Like, maybe you feel really neutral and grounded and centered. Maybe you feel a little like, I wish you'd hurry up and get on with this, right? How are you feel? Maybe you're feeling some sadness and you're here to move through that. But just notice. And then I want you to just take a minute and just drop into a spot, like allow your body to collapse, kind of sit forward. And does that make you feel better or worse? And then sit up, bring your shoulders back, put a smile on your face, take a deep breath like Sincere is showing us. And notice, does that make you feel better or worse? Because even our body posture is going to influence what we're telling ourselves and the emotions that it brings up. And then session 3, Cynthia.
Yeah. There's a little bit of like the combination of rewriting that story within our body language and our thought process. And when we introduced anchoring in week 3, we were really taking those steps, breathing and centering, rewriting that story that we're telling our bodies and our minds. And then we find something we want to keep and we anchor it. So we find a unique spot within our body. We anchor at the peak of the emotion so that when we need to go back into that state, we can just grab our knuckle or our earlobe or
Mhm.
touch our collarbone. So the process of anchoring does take a little bit more than a 3 sentence shift. But what happens is when we pose ourselves in that upright position, we tend to feel more confident. Wouldn't you agree?
Mhm.
And when we slouch, a lot of times we're thinking we're actually downward and we're feeling downward and downward emotions. If you've ever looked at the energetic frequency model, those down emotions and low frequency, it's a relaxed state, but it's also can be a depressive state. So you'll just notice when you shift your body, those things. And so when you anchor, you're intentionally taking something you really want to attend, like a high energy, high vibe state, and you're going to anchor it and you're going to touch it and it's going to re-engage all of these chemical things. And we're going to get to a little bit more chemical stuff in just a minute. Again, trying to go fast so we can practice. So
Right.
anchoring is an opportunity, again, go look back on the sessions, but it's a place where we reach our peak state. We grab a spot on our body to engage a state. And right before that releases, we release, and then we practice and practice and practice to anchor all of these things into our bodies.
Right.
And then Dawn went into a little bit of body scanning, which was
Right.
weak, but we're going to let her dip into it once again.
Absolutely. So when we scan our bodies, so here's the thing that anchoring and body scanning and tapping all have in common is that when we're feeling an emotion, like when we go here, that's also a type of remembrance of the body, right? And we know that our body stores emotions. So when we're feeling like we need to protect ourselves, our body will naturally put itself in a state to protect. So in week 4, we went through how do we scan our body and find the places that our body has stored emotion, right? So this could be like an old injury where it's stored emotion. This could be, when I do massage, sometimes I'll like be in the armpit and people get really sad. And they're like, how is sadness in my armpit? Like that's where your body stored it for a while because it thought you wouldn't find it there. And so it felt safe for the body to put it there, right? So there's a lot of spaces like this. And that's why in the retreat, we go into all of these things in an immersive quality. So you get to find these spaces within yourself at a couple hours at a time, really immerse yourself in it, allow yourself and your brain the safety to start releasing this. And this is the benefit also of that somato emotional work, is how do we find those spaces where our body is hiding that we can let go gently and efficiently. And then now we're on to week 5, and we're actually going to put more into practice so we can fully embody and then move towards that retreat even more. So Cynthia, go ahead.
Absolutely. Well, Tracy, this is you're attending right now, and this is awesome. So I really want you to recognize the state that you're in right now. So if you're willing, could you share with us what state do you feel that you're in right now of emotion?
I feel positive, calm,
I love that.
calm but positive.
Love that. I love that. So when we practice state change, we're going to maybe bring up some things that aren't so fun and bring you right back to that. So we're going to teach you how to go from a state you don't want to be in, a non-resourceful state, to a resourceful state. And with state change, we're taking all of these different things. My room is very excited. I don't know if you heard that, but I literally lost a whole stack of something. Edit, delete. Okay.
The room is changing state. It's like, you know what? I don't want this to be over here. We're going to be relaxed on the floor. That's what we're going to be.
Exactly. So we just had a physical manifestation of an example of state change that seemingly inanimate objects can do. So state change, we're going to shift you from one state to another. So you went from peace and calm to joy and laughter in that moment, because we're going to laugh about the things that we don't always prefer to have sometimes. What's important to know about state change is, Dawn will go a little bit more into detail about this if she chooses, but we do want to make sure we give you a good 10 minutes to practice. So you want to identify the state that you're in. You want to label it. Like, you might feel like icky, uncomfortable. You don't know, but you kind of identify it's a negative state. And then you label it, sort through a series of emotions. Maybe it's embarrassment. And then you want to allow for that time to let the chemical process your body. And that's a 90-second process. And if you can do something and hold space for 90 seconds, you get to choose at the end of that 90 seconds how you're going to respond. Life, unfortunately, doesn't often allow us that full 90 seconds to respond. And so what we want to do is teach you a tool that you can practice in your downtime so that when things literally fall off the shelf, you can regain yourself while the chemical courses through your body, put your thoughts and your body in a state you would love to be in, and then move forward. We don't want you to ever deny those emotions, but we realize that sometimes the timing isn't right. So we want you to maybe do a visual, if you're a visual person, an auditory, whatever your learning style is, and choose to say, that moment that I didn't want to be in, the moment when the things fell off my shelf that I didn't want to experience, I need to attend to, but I can't right now. So I'm going to put it, I literally see a shelf above my stove because I always think back burner. So when I see it, I see this shelf, and there's 3 shelves. One's really high. I don't know what's up there. Then there's this middle shelf that's most prominent. And that's the one I'm probably going to get to a little later than that bottom shelf that's really accessible. So I'm going to choose which shelf to put that thought on. And I see a jar. And I literally visualize myself opening that jar and dropping something in it and closing it. And now I have given myself permission at a conscious level to attend to that feeling that I didn't necessarily address because I didn't have 90 seconds to pause. Mm-hmm. Dawn, you want to add to that?
Yeah, absolutely. And so the thing about the 90 seconds that I also want you to all to realize is, so let's just actually just jump right in for a minute. Think about a time in the past that when you think about it now still makes you frustrated, maybe angry, maybe a little bit sad, right? Don't go to the biggest thing in your life. Stay with something that's, fairly recent, like maybe a disappointment, maybe something political that you're like, oh, that really bothers me or frustrates me, or I'm fearful about that. And I want you to just like pause, close your eyes for a moment if you're comfortable with that, and just pause and set yourself into that space. And if you were going to show it in your body, how would you show it in your body? So would you be forward? Would you be like angry? Would you be like hiding? Like, how would that expression be of whatever you're feeling right now at the moment? And just notice that. And now sit with that. What are you hearing? What's coursing through your mind? What thoughts are you saying about yourself, the situation, about other people? What are you visualizing? And as you sit with that, just notice how present it is in your body. Because remember, the body can't tell the difference between past, present, and future. And it's funny because I can feel all of this energy of all of you, whether you're watching the recording or not, like all that energy is intertwined, right? When we set this space, and I can feel all this energy like in my gut right now. So it's good that you're all in it. So now, this is what happens. These chemicals are being released. We're starting to feel it. And perhaps you're being really present and staying with that one moment. Perhaps you're already racing off to other situations, but I want you to come back and just stay with that feeling right now in your body. And now here's how fast we're going to change states. I want you to stand up, or if you can't stand up right now, get yourself in a different position. I want you to like shake it all out. Just force yourself, shake it out, smile, breathe, bring your arms up in the air. Take a big, deep breath. Lift your chest. So have your chest come up into space, right? From here to here. And I want you to just smile and stand and think about something really happy or joyful or potential or something funny, maybe a meme you saw, a joke, a child, and if you can't think of anything like that, that's fine. Just be in the state, the body position. And notice how quickly, when you change your shape, when you change your movement, when you move around, did your emotion shift? Did that thing that you were just thinking about go away? And this is the thing, is often what we do is when we get into a state, let's say I'm like fighting with somebody, right? And then I get done with the fight and I walk away. That chemical is gone in 90 seconds. So the only way that I keep hanging on to anger, resentment, frustration is by reliving the event, by thinking about it again, by putting myself in the body posture that I was in at that moment, by hearing the words, right? So when we kind of go, okay, that's right, that happened. It's the past, it's done. I get to change my state. I get to stand a different way. I get to think about something different. That's how fast we can change our state. And the more often you do that, the more accessible it becomes. Like if anyone's ever been to a Tony Robbins seminar, they spend 3 days in a row doing this. Like feel your state, feel your state, now break out of the state, find a different state. Where's your power pose? What are you saying to yourself? And this is how quick it is to shift. And we can do that at any moment in time. Now, this is not like spiritual bypassing. This is not ignoring the emotion. This is not pretending like it doesn't exist. And of course, there are things that, like Cincy was saying, are higher on the shelf that are a little more like, this is going to need to be revisited a few times, right? Perhaps it's like something that's more traumatic that needs some support in order to process it. So I'm not just saying like, oh, even if it's a trauma, just, I'm over it. That's not what I'm saying. And we get to process in the right space, right time. So if you're at work or you're sitting at home and you're feeling all this stuff and you're like, this isn't the time to sit here and process this, or I'm actually feeling worse, setting it deeper in my nervous system by sitting here in this state, how do I break out and say, okay, yes, I acknowledge I feel that way. I'm going to use one of these tools to shift it and make a choice for yourself because you deserve that power and that healing, right? Go ahead, Cynthia.
And I wanted to say the ability to change state doesn't require big movement. It is so helpful. I mean, big movement is one of the greatest things. When I do body work, I do a type of myofascial release that requires really large movement. People are rolling around on the floor, rolling off the table. It's huge movement. And it's very, very useful. I also do very micro shifts with the fascia where they don't even necessarily feel like I'm doing anything. My hands are so lightly touching them or not touching them. And it works. So understand if you can't get up, either because of a physical limitation in your own body or because you're at work, and if you get up, you know that boss, the eyes dart on you and you can't get up. There isn't a lot of large movement you can do. You can do a lot with your eyes. You can look up and to the right and feel. You can look down in the center and notice. You can look in any direction. You can blink rapidly. You can try to hold your eyes open for a longer state. You can gaze into the distance and focus on something far away. You can focus on something close. And that is all eye movement, and nobody is going to know what you're doing except you. And you're going to change your internal state because you're doing something physical with your body.
Yep, absolutely. And it can even be a change from here to here. Like that little bit of movement shifts your neurological connections, it shifts your emotions. Because when we're used to being in that upright state, it tells our body that we're in a place of confidence and safety. So even telling our body, I'm here, that's a place of protection, to I'm here is a place of confidence and safety. That's super subtle. And so just play with it right now. Just spend a couple minutes. Just notice, like if you bring your body into a state that you brought in before, like notice how you feel. And then where can you put your body or your eyes, like Cynthia was saying, what can you focus on? How can you shift your breath to allow that state to change that fast?
Another tool you can use is shifting where you're leaning. If you lean in, you tend to be listening. You tend to be being attentive to what's in front of you. And just a little lean in, you can actually project yourself in front of you and lean in and look at yourself and have a little internal conversation like, hey, you did great, not yelling at anyone. Good job. You can compliment yourself, and that can change a state because now you're putting yourself in a position of nurturing and being nurtured. And so you're doing some self-care while you're just shifting your body forward. So all of those practices that we talked about, and we want to go really deep with you in the retreat, are important to do. So each one of these workbooks gives you an opportunity to work through each of these states. And so even though maybe right now it'll be like, well, this is going so fast, I'm trying to process it all, it's okay. Practice is wonderful. Keep practicing your practices. That is my biggest mantra. Practice your practices when you're in a safe, sound environment. And that's what we're creating right here. So before we shift into our VIP, and I keep picking on Tracy because Tracy is our VIP person today who is going to really get tons of attention. I love it. I'm so excited. Tracy, is there a state you'd like to choose to identify and then shift to? Because I want the whole group to see how quickly we can get you. So we've got 3 minutes. So that's not going to give us the full 90-second cycle to go through all of this. We just want to identify it, sit in it, and shift it.
I mean, a state that I'm thinking about that I want to have control over,
Yes,
or
exactly.
so like sadness.
That's great. And what is your joy shift? Happiness, calmness, peace? What emotion do you want to shift to?
Joy.
Joy. Okay. So two things that you need to know. One, because you're putting yourself in the state, you need to find a specific time of sadness, not a time of depression, distress, not deep, just sad. And then you also will need to find an identifiable, specific joy state that you remember. It's important to be specific when you're changing state. So that is the first step when we're changing state. You're in one, most of you will be easy to get in that first one. The second one is where we're shifting over. So we want to pop into a very identifiable state, an experience of memory that we have had. Okay, so that's really important. And then once we do this, we're going to practice some shifts within our body, and we're going to bounce over from sadness to joy. And Donna is going to walk us through that.
All right. So, and I want to kind of pull it back to everybody for a moment. So when you go back to sadness, so once again, find that body posture. For all of you, wherever it is, what do you do when you're sad? Notice. And now make a shift. Let yourself sit upright. Move your eyes. Find that spot for you that feels like, and maybe you'll have to wiggle around with it a little bit. Like, oh, do I have to change how I'm sitting? Do I need to stand up? Is it better for me if I look with my eyes upwards or to a certain direction? Is it easier if I put a smile on my face? Find that spot for you. Now notice that. Good. Notice how your breath changes. Notice how the energy starts moving up. And now allow yourself to drop back into that sad space. Go back to that posture. And notice what happens. Do you feel that maybe it gets heavier, the energy starts moving down, or maybe sometimes people see visuals like things get more dark, they feel their emotions come down, they feel their breath change. Just notice, what are you noticing in your own body? Are your thoughts changing? And now pull yourself back up. Feel joy. Allow that joy to come through and be playful with it, right? You're not forcing yourself, quote unquote, to feel joy, but notice, how could I be curious? How could I in this moment feel a little more joy, a little more happiness? If I lift my chest up higher, what does that do? If I bring a picture of joy, what would be a picture of joy? And I make it super bright and in front of me, like the sunshine, and I make it really bright. How does that change? Good. And then just one more time, drop down into that sadness again. And notice, what does that look like? Can I make that picture? Can I make that feeling run through however it runs through? So I acknowledge it, I accept it, I observe it. And then I allow it to move through and then back up into that place. Where's that joy again? That hopefulness, and start noticing. You may even have noticed already that every time you go into sadness, it's a little bit more challenging, isn't it? And then every time you go into joy, it's a little bit easier. And so this is what we're doing, is our training our bodies, our minds, our emotions, our sight to find that place faster, almost like an anchor, because it is kind of a body anchor, right? Whenever we're experiencing emotion, when we touch a spot or we're in a certain body position, that neurologically links. So this is linked to maybe a not so happy, joyful, positive emotion. And this is linked to a more joyful, positive emotion. And the more we can get ourselves to have the flexibility of moving between emotions, the easier it'll be for us to shift state that fast.
And one thing I want to add.
I didn't spotlight myself. No one could see me.
I'm like, it,
Talk you through it. You're good.
it looks like, I'm like, maybe I'm just the demo.
Oh, that's good. They watched you. It's all good. It's
It's
all good.
okay. Yeah, that's all right. One thing I want to add, it's in the workbook. It talks about you're shifting from your brain like a train track. So one of the things that I learned in my training was if you ever see a train has a switch station, okay? So the train can either go this way or it goes this way, but the track in the middle has to switch it. So essentially what you're doing is creating a lever to switch like that. So your train is coming down, you're barreling down, this emotion is barreling down, you switch it and it goes the other direction. And when you have time, let that barrel straight through and let the 90 seconds happen and see how you have processed the emotion and how quickly you can accept that you had an emotional response, you're chemically processed it in 90 seconds, and what choices do you make after with your thought patterns. You can learn all of this and more if you attend the retreat or keep following Don or myself. And we are so excited to invest in you in your future ideal calm in the midst of chaos.
That's right. And I do want to note as well that we have put it at a discount right now because some of the feedback we got is that people need a little bit more support at this time of year. A lot of people spent a lot of money around the holidays and Christmas, and they're looking at other things. So we have dropped the price to $222 per person. So just know that that is available. And if you feel like, hey, I really want to attend, that still doesn't seem feasible for me, reach out to us because we're totally willing to work with people just to make sure that we can support people in the way that you truly need and desire. So whatever that looks.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We're here to help. And we just believe that what we give creates gain in our lives in one way or another. And so we're so excited that you've joined us this far in this series. If you've purchased the playbacks, you get to keep watching us again and again. If you want to be part of the retreat, this comes with the retreat as well. So you're going to have a ton of tools to build your own personalized toolkit, but those worksheets are there for you. So if you do go in, download the worksheets, it's going to give you a good overview of the steps you need to take to create calm in the midst of chaos. And you can do it alone, but we'd rather support you.
So thank you so much.
Thank you.